Hi, welcome back, everyone. I would like to answer a question that one of the people coming to my fourth way study group asked. That's a very important question for all of us, myself included. So this is the context of people interested in doing this spiritual work, inner work, awakening work, becoming more conscious work in the context of the fourth way Gurdjieff-Uspensky system. But it applies to actually if you are doing some other type of inner work, but really focus towards not just self-help or healing, but trying to go deep, find out who or what we are, or fulfill one's potential of consciousness, whether if it is on a meditation path, Zen path, or non-duality path. It still applies, basically. All that I'm going to say here still applies. So the question is, how can we come to value that within us which loves the work towards growing consciousness? How can we become more emotional towards the work? Gurdjieff and Uspensky speak about the necessity of this. Yeah, so how can we become more emotional about our pursuits towards awakening? And that's a very important question, because initially it's just a small part of us that is interested. Or even if it feels like it's very powerful and it means everything to us, actually, we start with just, we are not unified. So we have different parts of our being, and some part of our being is interested in seeking or interested in some spiritual practice, or, staying with the fourth way, interested in self-observation, self-remembering, all of the practical work offered. So only a part of us is interested in that, and other parts are interested in other things, interested in making money, interested in all the life pursuits that are necessary, of course, having a job, taking care of one's family, being healthy and all of that. But also we have all these other false personality pursuits or ego pursuits, mechanical pursuits that have nothing to do with awakening, like wanting love, wanting appreciation, wanting to be famous, wanting to be recognized, wanting to have security, wanting to control, wanting a special car, wanting a special partner, always something, wanting. There's the ego or false personality, or the sense of me as a person, which is actually not the real me. Somehow, due to its intrinsic sense of lack, it feels something is missing. So it is always seeking something outside of oneself. It's seeking, satisfaction, fulfillment for some object, for some experience, wanting to be fulfilled in a relationship. If only I will find this relationship, I will be fulfilled. If only I will get this car, or I will have this experience, or have this trip, or build this house, or build this company, then I will be fulfilled. So we have all kind of many parts of our being, if we're honest, that even if we're serious seekers or serious practitioners, we have other parts of our being that are not aligned with our work. So this person's question is very relevant, is that because in actually to really go deep with the work, we need to kind of strengthen this desire towards the work, strengthen this. So most of our energies to be, in order to have an actual real deep progress and deep shift, this pursuit needs to be more important than anything else. That's very important. And it takes time for this pursuit of awakening, however we call it, whatever system you're using, this pursuit of this needs to be more important than anything else. And yes, we are still going to take care of children and have jobs and all of that, but those will be secondary. Yeah. And to get to this stage of this pursuit of the inner work to be more important than anything else, this usually goes through stages. And yeah. And so this pursuit, it's actually emotional based. There needs to be a deep heart, not the usual like wanting heart, the ego wanting heart, but it has to be deep emotional energy kind of focusing towards this aim. And this person was asking basically the love, basically love of truth, love of our aim, love of presence, love of this mysterious unknown that is pulling us. Yeah. So this person was asking, how can you increase this? Because yeah, we need to increase it. Without it, it's like we are divided. We are pursuing some of this here, pursuing some of this here, and our signal is muddied, and we are not focused on track, and it takes a long time. So how can we become more emotional towards the work? All right. So here's I have some thoughts here that are some philosophical, some practical in response to this from my experience. So one would be realizing then nothing else that we will pursue apart from that no worldly pursuit will fulfill us. Yeah, realizing that all of our pursuits towards trying to get fulfillment, peace, and happiness outside of ourselves, they are not going to work. Realizing deeply that no woman, no special partner, no special man is going to bring that which I deeply long for. That no external object, not a child, not having a child, not having a wife, not having a company, not having a car, not having the next hit of coke or weed. None of this actually will bring the fulfillment we long for deeply. And so this is a pretty deep stage of emotional maturity and spiritual maturity, you know? And also it is necessary. Most of us, we don't have that straight off the bat, you know? Most of us, this impulse is to seek outside of ourselves and to fulfill ourselves through these avenues, these recipes of happiness we inherited from our society and from our parents, you know, get this bachelor, get this job, and you'll be happy, get this family, you're going to be happy. These are very strong. So for many of us, almost all of us, we need to be disappointed, you know, we need to have pursued them, you know, and we need to have gotten this relationship and gotten this woman or man or gotten this thing, and still the sense of lack was there. So it's important to be disappointed and realize that all avenues of fulfillment are meaningless, you know? So then there comes this, whoa, okay, so really I get it. What the sages say, that what we want is within, the self is within, you know, but this usually takes some time and a bunch of disappointment, you know. Another pointer would be remembering one's own death, basically. Remembering that time in this body and time in this life is really limited. And we have this illusion that we have time. And there are many stories how, yeah, we are chasing stuff, and then, you know, some people at some point get a terminal diagnosis and they realize, oh my God, what have I been doing in my life? And only some of them, they now really get focused on spiritual inner work, but we're really just landing into the present moment, you know, really landing in the present moment, because all the ego illusions, they have been deconstructed. But usually a person needs to have had a lot of spiritual inner work and purification to get to that point. Otherwise, this getting a terminal diagnosis or being in such a situation will bring so much turmoil and resistance that we won't be even able to take advantage of that even then. So in many spiritual traditions, including the fourth way, there is this principle of remember death, remembering death. The Tibetan tradition, when a monk will die, they will have some special vigil or something like that, where they will have the body of the monk be on the top of a mountain somewhere, and then the vultures would eat the body of the monk, and the other monks will just watch and meditate to really kind of be soaked in by the reality of the fact that this body will die. I think in the Hindu tradition also, they will burn the body, and that really goes into our thick head, especially in the West, when death and old age is out of sight. Basically, older people are not on the streets; they are put in group homes. There's no talk about death. There's no fear of death. Is totally repressed. Medical system is, yeah. So in the East, in some places, there's still this kind of being hit with seeing like a body being burned, and then it gets into our thick skull and to our conscience and consciousness, the realization that, oh shit, I'm going to die as this body. So this is the actual practice, without going into being depressed or being afraid, although it may bring emotions like that, so we need to go through them. But this is a great practice. There was a master, Jed McKenna, was saying that to keep remembrance of death in the back pocket of your genes, of your spiritual genes. Remembrance of death in the back pocket. And together, like some of you have a gratitude practice, which is equally valid. Be grateful for being healthy, being grateful for the gift of seeing. Some of my friends are blind. My grandfather was blind. Being grateful for having energy, being grateful for colors, So apart from having practices like that, also to have remembrance of our own imminent death, and time is limited. This will help us to use the time better and bring a little bit of fire in our pursuit of awakening and truth. Gurdjieff, in his monumental book, the Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson, which is an awesome, deep book. I recommend to people interested in the fourth way to at some point read it or listen to it. In the last chapter, I think the last chapter, this character who actually was observing humanity for thousands and thousands of years and seeing how the human beings somehow lost track of the truth and believed in a life of illusion and not being able to see reality as it is, and wasting God-given time given to actually strive to perfect our being and do something useful for the totality and actually become conscious and become helpful to God, rather than just being a freeloader, getting this life in this body and just using it for self-satisfaction. So anyway, this Beelzebub was observing humanity for so long, and then he was telling to his grandson all these stories, and the grandson at some point asked Beelzebub, saying like, "Grandpa, it's so sad what these humans are doing. Is there any way, anything that could be done for them? Anything that may help them snap out of this and actually live a true conscious life in accordance to the aims of our Kamali Father? Is there anything that you suggest?" And Beelzebub, after a long silence, he said, yes, there is something. And that something is that for some angels or angelic forces to implant in the humans some organ that will remind them about their own death every day, every moment, to be reminded of their own death. And this will help them to not live a life in illusion, pursuing things that are meaningless. All right. Other ways to answer the question, other things, more, I mean, they're all practical, all that I said before, but other things would be to, this reading or studying material, higher knowledge material, conscious knowledge coming from sages or from people who reached a high level of being, studying the fourth way books or non-dual books or whatever your tradition is, studying that, either reading or YouTube or listening. This is higher knowledge, higher transmission coming in. And this has this effect of inspiring one, being inspired and nourishing the part in us that values the work. This is a very reliable method, because large majority of life as we know it, they are pursuing other things. And so we have there's a strong momentum to forget what is really important, and strong pull towards bullshit. So that's why you need to consciously, at least for a long time, to make time to read, to study, to listen. And this will strengthen the desire of the heart towards the truth and God. Also, spending time with people, that's another thing. What is called in the fourth way, the second line of work. In the fourth way, and this idea that I'm going to say now, it applies to all paths. Whether you are in a monastery or you're in a Tibetan tradition or non-dual tradition or anything like that, what I'm saying still applies to you. Is that in order to go deep on this awakening path, it is important to have several lines of work at the same time. If you just have solo work, working on yourself by yourself, meaning studying, practicing, self-remembering, self-observation, meditating, whatever practice you have, that will stall. That's a law. I'm not going to go into it. I'll go another time. But that's a law. You're going to stall and deviate and get kind of flat, bored, distracted, forget. Yeah. So it's important to have several engines at the same time. So in the fourth way, they talk about having 3 lines of work. But in this video, I will talk at least about having the second line of work, which is the idea of the Sangha, and having some people in your life that are aligned with the same path, and they are seriously focused on the same path, and engaging with them, So actually coming to a meeting with such people, or having just friendship in the work with 1 or 2 or 3 people, or going to a retreat, or going to anything like that. That's important. So as Rumi would say, spend time in the presence of those who remind you of your Lord, who not only speak wisdom, but are that. Yeah. So this principle of hanging out with like-minded people involved on the path, that is necessary. And that will boost your desire to be doing the work. And actually it will boost your own first line, your solo working on oneself. It's actually a necessity. Being just on one's own without other people, we can really get deluded. We can deviate. We can imagine all kind of shit about ourselves, that we are like special person and specially evolved. And, it's good to have other people around us that see our mechanicality and our features and our ego, and being open to exchange, no matter how advanced you are, man. And I see this a trap for many people who reach a certain higher spiritual attainment. there's no supervision, man. There's nobody who is telling them, dude, yeah, you're doing good, but how about that, man? They are not open to feedback, or they think that they already arrived and know better than everybody. That is a very tricky. Anyway, but this is another video. So having second line, stay with second line, create second line for yourself, this working with others, coming to groups, having encounter with your guide or teacher, going to events, having friendships, not useless friendships where you waste your time, with people just bullshitting and wasting time, Gurdjieff was saying, cut off any useless friendships. So the people you surround with, they are people that are aligned with this, Yeah. All right. Ultimately, this lack of desire, lack of emotional energy towards the work is also connected to our emotional center working at a low level. So below its right standard, in the second state, in a state of self-forgetfulness, in the state of waking sleep, the normal state of humanity, our emotional center works way below its level. So just doing emotional work of basically purifying these habits of complaining, of judging ourselves and others, complaining about other people, complaining about the weather, complaining about the government, just complaining. And this habit of the most mechanical habit of expressing unpleasant emotions and justifying, just oozing out towards everybody our every little unpleasant emotions and being upset with the world and with God and with reality, that the traffic is slow and then this house is not so comfortable and that whatever is happening is not according to your ego's wishes. So doing this preliminary emotional purification work of cleaning up one's emotional center from the useless mechanical expression of unpleasant emotions, and complaining and judging and gossiping and talking about our problems, a lot of our emotional energy is sucked and wasted and leaked through such mechanical unconscious manifestations. So if we actually start working on this, then we plug these leaks and we are now being with this discomfort, being with this yuckiness, being with this our irritation, and we have a chance to investigate them and to, instead of expressing this worm, Gurdjieff, Uspensky would say there's a worm in you that wants to express itself, but when it does, it feels relief, but then it keeps getting stronger and stronger, So instead of every little discontent, every little unpleasant emotions, we are just leaking it out there and then hooking to other people and just oozing the shit towards each other. Instead of doing that, kind of containing that, not suppressing it, containing that, and actually using this energy to transmute it into more being aware, into self-observation, into self-remembering, observing actually our attitudes. And this is quite long and arduous work, but in this way our emotion center will actually become purified from this stuff, and then we'll be much more sensitive, much more feeling. We are going to feel other people. We are going to feel, we're going to feel nature. We are going to feel and be touched by beauty, be touched by people, touched by suffering, touched by love. And we're going to have more energy available and more love towards the work. Ultimately, the more we go into the work, the work is very satisfying. We call it the work because it is work, as Gurdjieff would call it, one divine duty assigned to man that that especially modern men and unconscious men forgot is this partok duty, which is the striving and the duty of conscious labor and intentional suffering. Conscious labor towards a spiritual conscious goal and intentional suffering. Yeah. Not just labor and not just suffering. Everybody is working their butt off and life is hard and everybody is suffering. I'm talking about conscious labor and intentional suffering, conscious labor, all of these efforts in our first line, of being attentive, developing quality of attention, not being in imagination and daydreaming, observing, cutting all of these obstacles. I mean, working with the obstacles of this expression of unpleasant emotions, of this gossiping, judgment, lying, unnecessary talk. All of this bring us closer to a true self-remembering and brings us closer to our presence, the real I. So all of this requires effort for a long time. Conscious effort, conscious labor, and intentional suffering, like there's always suffering. There's suffering, it's stressful, we don't have money, we get sick, other people get sick, we lose people we love, it's hot, whatever. It's cold, stressful, government is corrupt. This is suffering. This was Pensky would say that this planet is like a pain factory, actually. But instead of just suffering unconsciously and even creating our own suffering with our own deficiency stories and just resisting life and taking things personally and negative imagination, we are using the suffering that is here, use this energy to be more present, be more aware, instead of resisting and bitching about it, wanting this present to be different than it is, to kind of own it, accept it, that, hey, what's happening here is that what needs to be happening. That's where I'm at. So anyway, through this first line of work, conscious labor and intentional suffering, actually, we are going to have more and more satisfaction, actually. Somebody more mature on the path, this is satisfying. Feels good. Doesn't need to be ecstasy. It can be ecstasy sometime, but it doesn't have to be ecstasy. It's just even like feeling unpleasant emotion that I would like to actually be nasty towards my partner and actually shutting this off and feeling this and being with it and remembering myself with it. It doesn't feel good, but it feels right. So there's some satisfaction. And also from time to time and more, you will have more periods of quiet mind and just peace and presence and seeing the beauty of the colors and the beauty of our friends and enjoying the food and enjoying the body and enjoying art, enjoying colors. So the more awake we are, the better our life is. So we get this, we are incentivized by that, and then because sleep is painful and awakening is hard, but it's more enjoyable. So that's what I got. And yeah. All right, everyone. May this nourish your desire to awaken, and whatever works for you, use it. And see you around. Or if you are new to this, I'm doing groups. I'll be doing some groups soon where you can have an opportunity to have a higher teaching on board, as well as like-minded people to share with. All right, reach out to me. Ciao. All the best.